All right, so this half hour we're doing something a little special today. Welcome to our studio, Representative Dr. John Bizon, who is with us this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Richard. Great to be with you again.
Thank you for being here today. Also here today is Commissioner Jim Haadsma, his challenger in the 62nd State House race this morning. Morning, Jim.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you for inviting me, and thanks to Dr. Bizon for participating.
Well, we appreciate both of your participating today. We've fashioned what I've been calling a debate-style exchange here today, and I can talk a little bit about quickly here about what the format will be. We will ask a question, and one of the two candidates will have 2 minutes to answer. This will be timed, and then a 1-minute response from the other candidate, and then if needed and requested, a 30-second follow-up. And so we'll go through this format with our questions and move forward. We did prepare more questions than we needed, and so folks are aware we did share with the candidates a couple of days ago what those questions are in order for them to do any research they might have needed to do to provide you with an answer that we thought perhaps would have more meat in it if we gave them the opportunity to think about what those questions are. So that was the intent today. Also today, before the candidates came in the studio, we asked them to participate in a coin toss that was adjudicated by the firm of Collins, Piet, and Barrios. Not really. It wasn't that it wasn't that formal, but we did do a coin toss. Coin toss, he tried to say, and so Commissioner Haadsma will be the first one to answer today, and then we'll switch off back and forth and go from there. Are we ready, gentlemen?
We are, and Nico did a better job than some of the NFL referees have done.
He's very good at that. All right. Very good. So we'll start today then with the first question, and I'll start the timer following the reading of the question, and I'll keep the time for us. And by the way, we do have a large clock that both candidates are able to see so they know how much time they have here in the studio. We'll start with education today, gentlemen, and the first question goes to Commissioner Haadsma then as a result of the coin toss. Battle Creek Public Schools has been bleeding enrollment, employing stopgap measures like closing school buildings to right-size the budget. Some blame schools of choice as the culprit. Does schools of choice need to change in Michigan? Commissioner Haadsma.
Richard, I visited thousands of homes over this election cycle and visited thousands of homes in the Battle Creek Public Schools District and have met many parents who are sending their children to Harper Creek when they live in Urbandale or to Lakeview when they live in Verona, which is an inconvenience for the parents or grandparents and certainly not the same kind of school setting Dr. Bizon and I probably recall from when we were children. I think that schools of choice is a public policy from the Engler administration, which is poor public policy. But that genie is out of the bottle at this point. I don't see that we can turn back the clock to before the time when schools of choice was allowed. What I think needs to be done is more prioritization of K-12 education in our state budget. If there is greater money prioritized in our budget to K-12 education, then Battle Creek Public Schools will be better fortified, as will the other Crescent Community school districts. And if more schools are fortified as opposed to more money going to charter and cyber and private schools by any potential parochiate vouchers, then I think there's going to be more equity in relation to the quality of the Battle Creek Public Schools vis-a-vis, say, Lakeview Public Schools. We need more equity because we don't need a community in which schools are closing in the Battle Creek District very proximally to where schools are being retrofitted and expanded just up the road in the Lakeview Public Schools District by reason of the May 5, 2016 bond. We want more education. We want more per pupil foundation grant allowance.
All right, that's 2 minutes, and now we'll provide Dr. Bizon with an opportunity for a 1-minute response. And if I can get my clock to work, we'll manage that. All right, here we go. Dr. Bizon.
All right, thank you so much, Richard. It's great to be with you again. I am all about empowering parents to take care of their kids and to choose the best schools that they can for their kids. Right now, we are delivering to the Michigan schools $14.1 billion in K-12 education, a record high number. And we have some districts, such as in Detroit, where they get $13,000 per student because of additional dollars that come in from the federal government in certain instances, if you can qualify for certain programs. I'd have to say that it would be great to have parents involved in the kids' education. That is one of the mainstays of how we know kids are going to succeed. And no, I have to say that schools of choice is something that empowers our electorate. It empowers our parents, our communities, and we look forward to that continuation.
Okay. And do you wish a 30-second response, Commissioner Haadsma?
Sure, thank you. I think it also has potential, absent some change, of really eviscerating our schools, and Albion is an in-county example of that happening. Albion was, in fact, a district that no longer exists, and I think the community is greatly diminished by reason of not having a community school. And we're Battle Creek. To not have Battle Creek Public Schools, the Bearcats, I think the Battle Creek community, too, would be greatly diminished.
All right, so you're listening to a debate-style exchange between Representative Dr. John Bizon and Commissioner Jim Haadsma, his challenger in the 62nd District State House race here in Battle Creek, 8:13 on WBCK. Are we ready for the next question, gentlemen?
Yes.
All right, Dr. Bizon, you're taking this question. We're alternating back and forth between the candidates. Dr. Bizon, Commissioner Haadsma's campaign ad asserts that you have sought to block inspection of the Enbridge pipeline under the Straits of Mackinac. Obviously, Enbridge pipeline ruptures are of particular significance to local residents. Is this true? 2 minutes.
You know, when it comes to advertising, particularly on that particular issue, you have to read the fine print at the bottom. And what Commissioner Haadsma had suggested that I didn't co-sponsor a bill, but I'll point out that 75% of the Democrats didn't co-sponsor that bill. 90% of the entire House did not co-sponsor that bill. And I think that it's misleading. In fact, even in the state newspapers, the Detroit News, earlier this week, they were talking about political advertising, and that ad in particular was pointed out as being, quote, misleading and hypocritical in our state newspaper. And no, I have an 80% voting record with the Sierra Club. The Sierra Club came to me and said, thank you for all the things that you do for Michigan and for the environment out here. And I would love to point out that that oil spill occurred while I was in private practice taking care of the people who were affected by that spill. And it was Commissioner Haadsma who was in the seat as commissioner. He was the one at the wheel at that particular point in time, and that was in 2010, several years ago. But no, thank you so much for that question, Richard.
Okay, and Commissioner Haadsma, you have an opportunity now for a 1-minute response, and you may begin.
Thank you, Richard. First, the Detroit News is not our state newspaper, and I don't take that which the Detroit News asserts as gospel. I have been a county commissioner for 8 years and was serving in 2010. I came back from a ball tournament in Chicago to have an opportunity to see the oil spill response up close, and I met the Secretary of the Department of Transportation who came in from Washington, met us at the middle school in Marshall, and I learned a whole lot about the oil spill. I learned a lot by reason of just seeing what goes by my office window every day on the Kalamazoo River with the power boats. We cannot afford that in the Straits of Mackinac. And this should have been sponsored by someone who represents our community, knowing what our community in fact endured and will continue to endure for probably generations to come.
All right. Thank you for that. Representative Bizon, do you request a 30-second response?
Sure.
Okay, you may begin.
We have just inspected that pipeline that we are talking about, Line 5 under the Mackinac Straits, and it appears to be in very good shape. There was one of the supports that apparently was out of specifications, and we passed the bill to permit that area be reinforced, and it is currently under supervision. I will point out that none of my constituents had asked me to co-sponsor that bill.
Okay.
Jim, you're among them, sir.
All right. So we're moving on to our next question. If you're ready, gentlemen, 817 WBCK. Commissioner Haadsma gets the next question. Commissioner, in your campaign ad, same ad to which we referred a moment ago, it is asserted that the economy has been, quote, rigged by Governor Snyder, Representative Bizon, and Michigan Republicans. Would you elaborate on why you think so, please? 2 minutes.
Thank you. Since 2011, when Governor Snyder took office and the Republicans maintained control of the State House and the State Senate, there have been significant revisions in our tax structure in Michigan. We've had a shift by which working people, middle-class families, and seniors are now paying $1.6 billion more in taxes than was so before this pre-Governor Snyder shift. In compensation, there's been a $2 billion benefit to corporations who have attained corporate loopholes and now pay significantly less. So compared to what we have before one-party rule in Michigan, and that's what we have all the legislative bodies, the governor's mansion, and the majority of the Michigan Supreme Court, all under Republican control. We are paying a lot more, and some corporations and very affluent people are paying a lot less. What I see every day are a lot more people struggling to get by in our community. I see a proliferation of payday loan advance places and pawn shops and rent-to-own car places. People are struggling to get by and cannot keep up. Wages are not keeping up, and when more people are without proper ways to make their ends meet, to get their mortgages paid, to get their express auto payment made on time, consequently, there's more suffering. And while there's more suffering, we've become a community in which there's more affluence at the very top, in the DeVos family, for example.
All right, and a 1-minute response from Representative Bizon.
Thank you. There has been a shift in taxes to some degree away from businesses, but we see our business community finally returning to Michigan. I wanted to point out an article that was in today's Inquirer that says that Battle Creek's jobless rate is down in September to 3.9. This is half a point less than the statewide average. This is at a level consistent with unemployment 20 years ago. And it was back in 1995 that Governor Engler established something called mega credits, which were credits that are given largely to main corporations. And when he established these, there were just a few corporations, largely the big three and the autos, that qualified for these mega credits. But after we got into what is called the Granholm's Lost Decade, those credits greatly expanded.
All right. So 1 minute there with Dr. Bizon. Do you wish a 30-second response, Commissioner?
Yes.
Okay.
To take credit by Dr. Bizon for some diminution in the reduction of the jobless in our community is like the rooster taking credit for the sun coming up right about now. In part, this is because many people have left our community. And I think because of the poor public policy taxation shifts that I described before, we are now trying to out India, and certainly out Indiana.
All right, and now we're ready for our next question. You're listening to a debate-style exchange between Representative Dr. John Bizon and Commissioner Jim Haadsma, his challenger in the 62nd House race here in Battle Creek at 8:22 on WBCK. The next question is for Dr. Bizon, and we'll talk about revenue sharing. Cities across the state, Doctor, have watched revenue sharing dwindle to the extent that they are seeing budget deficits. What would you do to address this issue? 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. We have recently changed the formula by which revenue sharing occurs. There was a time a couple of years ago where we were paying in 1980 approximately 40% of state revenues. As those revenues to the state go down, the revenue sharing also goes down. In recent years, it was about 55% that we pay in revenue sharing. The highest percentage was in 2002 at the end of the Engler years. The formula for sharing recently changed. We were using an Economic Vitality Incentive Program, EVIP program, for the revenue sharing that was in 2011. And last year, 2015, we changed that over to the CVTRS, that's City, Villages, Township Revenue Sharing Program, which I believe is going to show improvement in both fairness and adequacy. And it'll probably take a year or two to get the full impact of this change, but I do anticipate increases in revenue sharing over the next couple of years.
Including here in
Battle Creek and Calhoun County.
Okay, and a 1-minute response from Commissioner Haadsma. You may begin.
Thank you. As a county commissioner, I well know the restraints put upon our county by reason of diminution in revenue sharing from the state. I think the state has improperly storehoused lots of money that should be coming more equitably to the townships, to the cities, to the villages, and to the county, so we can do a better job in relation to roads maintenance, and so we can ensure that the sheriff's department has road patrol at night. I think, too, it's important to point out that a bill recently presented by Dave Maturin from the 63rd District next door would ensure some fairness between big box stores like Menards and Lowe's in relation to mom and pop stores, local business. Almost everybody in the State House voted in favor of Maturin's bill. Dr. Bizon did not, and that means he's supportive of big box stores and less revenue for our local authorities.
All right, Dr. Bizon, do you wish a 30-second response?
Indeed, I do.
Okay, you may begin.
I think this brings us back to the issue of taxation. And in the bill that Representative Maturin had sponsored, it calls for the highest taxes on business properties that can be assessed. I am all about fair and equitable taxes. You know, I don't know. If you let government go wild, they're going to be able to tax businesses out of business. And I think that it is the citizens who pay those business taxes, that oftentimes those business taxes are passed on to the citizens. And if you want your taxes higher, sure, go ahead and support that.
All right, 825 WBCK. Let's talk about Flint water for a moment. So this question is for Commissioner Haadsma. What should the state do to assure that its water infrastructure is safe? And do you feel Governor Snyder should be using public funds to defend himself in the Flint water crisis? 2 minutes.
Thank you. I've been to Flint many times this past winter, delivering water on weekends, delivering water filters on weekends. I've seen the north side of Flint up close and personal. I think in a limited way I understand that, and I understand what limitations in revenue sharing can ultimately bring to a great city which is now brought to its knees by years of neglect and then the insult of the water fiasco. I, without question, would prioritize our budget to make certain infrastructure is fortified. I want to make certain that not just communities like Flint, but communities like Battle Creek and Muskegon too have their water infrastructure fortified. And additionally to water infrastructure, road infrastructure. These are prioritizings that we need to make in the state budget. Things fall apart. It's scientific, and we need to make certain that we just don't continue to neglect improvements that are needed. Governor Snyder should, in fact, be paying for his own defense. He was grossly neglectful in relation to that which happened in Flint. He appointed an emergency manager. The emergency manager equipped the community of Flint to have this disaster, a man-made disaster, and it's not proper for the citizens of Michigan to fund the governor when he was so grossly neglectful to, if not intentionally so, to have allowed this kind of miasma to have evolved. This is, again, man-made. This is something that, without question, should be funded by the governor and not by the citizens of Michigan in its defense.
All right, thank you. And a 1-minute response from Representative Bizon.
I, too, have been to Flint after the crisis and met with not only the people, but the doctors and the health department to try to get a better understanding of exactly what went on. I think you may have seen the articles in the newspaper here in the last couple months that said that the EPA, just in the last week, that said that the EPA should have been able to say, let's fix this 6 months earlier than it did. And so to have the EPA, the federal government, sit on its hands while we were doing this. But besides going to Flint, I've been going to Lansing, where we delivered $27 million to the Flint community for support following this crisis while the federal government sat on its hands. And then we followed that with another $110 million going to the support that community, the children, the schools. And when you talk about using public funds for the defense of public officials, it's been done by Granholm. It's been done by Engler. This is something that we routinely do.
All right. Would you wish a 30-second response, Commissioner?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't think Governors Engler or Granholm did anything alike negligent to that inflicted upon the city of Flint. Again, I've been to the city of Flint many times. I've talked to the pediatrician who's responsible for exposing these issues. I don't think that pointing the finger at the federal government and trying to excuse the neglect by the state government is a proper response. The state government broke it. It should fix it. There was probably almost unanimity in relation to that vote, so it's not Dr. Bizon who championed that. It was championed by others within the legislative bodies.
Okay, and as timing sorts out, this is likely to be our last question, and it is for Representative Bizon. The presidential election has been very active and at times divisive. Dr. Bizon, you stopped short of endorsing Donald Trump, but said you would vote for him as the nominee. Is that still the case? 2 minutes.
I have endorsed, I have voted for Donald Trump in my absentee ballot. I support Donald Trump given the choices that we have. You know, if I did the things that Hillary Clinton had done in handling secrets, I would be in Leavenworth. And it becomes a question of, are we going to tolerate having two separate systems of justice, one for those who are endowed, benefited, and one for those who are not? And I feel that that is completely wrong. And so, no, I very much feel that with the Supreme Court races also being on the line down the road, and these are lifetime appointments. These are appointments that are not just for 4 years and then you get to change them. These are for appointments that are going to last 30 years. We are going to have a significant say as to who is there, and there is only one choice. If you move away from that conservative agenda that I have promoted several times, you're going to be moving away from the future of our children and our grandchildren. And it may be interesting, you may want to know that Donald Trump never called me up and asked for that endorsement either.
Okay, fair enough. A 1-minute response in just a second here as I reset from Commissioner Haadsma.
Thank you. I think, and I understand why, Dr. Bizon has been trying to disengage himself from Donald Trump throughout this election season. He certainly, at the time of debates in July, would not commit as to which presidential candidate he supported and for which one he planned to vote. Recently, he spoke on a public radio station and did say he planned to vote for Donald Trump and that he supported the principles of Donald Trump. And he just said, again, I support Donald Trump given the choices we have. I will be voting for Hillary Clinton. I don't know Hillary Clinton personally. I don't know Donald Trump personally. This isn't about some sort of celebrity tonight kind of contest. It's about platform. And Hillary Trump will support platform which includes stuff like more money to early childhood development and preschool, and that's the kind of candidate I want to support rather than one who wants more money going to the affluent and more money going to corporate tax-free.
Time there. 30-second response, Representative.
Thank you so much. I'm surprised that my opponent spent quite so much time on Donald Trump and so little time on Hillary and all of the other things that she brings. She was responsible for our failed foreign policy that has kept us engaged in wars in the Middle East. She was the chief architect of our foreign policy as Secretary of State. And this also has left us in war, and we're just going to see a continuation of the same with a continuation of the Obama presidency. Thank you, Richard.
All right. That's a fast 30 minutes, isn't it? We appreciate the time that both of you have given us today and the willingness to participate in this format where we tried to get as much opportunity to get the answers to these questions as we could. Thanks to the both of you and best of luck to you.
Again,
Thank you,
you're
Richard.
welcome, and thank you.
It's great being with you again.
Thank you.
Richard.